What's going on there, everyone? Well, interesting news. It's still fairly breaking news. Jeffrey Epstein, accused sex trafficker, is dead by apparent suicide found in his Manhattan jail cell. Who didn't think this was going to happen, first off? You know, this. Wow. So, first, he was found in his cell with marks on his neck and all this, so they put him on suicide watch. And this is after him and his cellmate both pretty much agreed they get along fairly well. And so they put him on suicide watch. They put him in a room where there's going to be nothing on the walls. They usually don't even give you a blanket or anything when you're on suicide watch. So, how did he hang himself? These are all questions that need to be answered. But let's get into this story. And yes, I'm using NBC. I don't recommend it generally. But let's see what they have to say. Epstein, 66, has apparently hanged himself. He was not on suicide watch at the time of his death. Multiple people familiar with the investigation told NBC News. I do believe he was on suicide watch. I'm pretty positive he was on suicide watch, so I don't know where they got that. Like I said, reasons why I don't particularly like NBC News. Jeffrey Epstein, the millionaire financier and accused sex trafficker, died by apparent suicide Saturday morning while in federal custody, according to the U.S. Justice Department. Epstein, 66, was in his federal jail cell in downtown Manhattan, but was not on suicide watch at the time of his death. Multiple people familiar with the investigation told NBC News. See, I'm not true. I don't think that's necessarily true. I do believe he was on suicide watch after the last situation that happened. He apparently hanged himself and was found unresponsive at around 6:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Attorney General William Barr said he was appalled to learn that Jeffrey Epstein was found dead while in federal custody. He said has consulted with the Department of Justice Inspector General, who is opening an investigation into the circumstances of Epstein's death. Excuse me. Mr. Epstein's death raises serious questions that must be answered, Barr added. Agreed. And this is very unprecedented for a federal investigation to happen because of a suicide in jail. Very unprecedented. But we all know the circumstances around Jeffrey Epstein. Very interesting. He had a lot of very powerful people that he had in his little inner circle. Very powerful people that might not like him going to court and speaking about them. That's speculation. I will say that is speculation. But looks like a duck, quacks like a duck. Must be a duck, right? Epstein's death comes a little over 2 weeks after he was found injured and in the fetal position in his cell at the Federal Metropolitan Correctional Center in Manhattan. He was semi-conscious with marks on his neck at the time. In July, two sources told NBC News that Epstein was on suicide watch. His death came a day after a trove of court documents was unsealed, providing new details about Epstein's alleged sex trafficking. I don't think it's alleged. I think it's pretty safe to say that that was going on. There are victims that still need justice somehow or another, one way or another. Epstein, who was being held on federal sex trafficking charges, was transported Saturday morning from the jail to the hospital in Lower Manhattan. Upon arrival, he was in cardiac arrest, people familiar with the matter said. The Department of Justice said Epstein was pronounced dead at the hospital. The FBI is investigating the death. Like I said, that's pretty unprecedented for the FBI to investigate a suicide. The FBI does not normally look into suicides at the Federal Bureau of Prisons facility, but given the nature of this case and out of abundance of caution, it has undertaken this probe, a senior law enforcement official said. There is nothing at this point to suggest foul play in Epstein's death. I think everything could support foul play. Just Epstein being who he is, what he did, and who he knows could be just a little indicator that there could be foul play involved. Epstein's arrest. Epstein was arrested July 6 at the airport in Teterboro, New Jersey, as he returned from Paris on a private jet. He was charged with 1 count of sex trafficking conspiracy and 1 count of sex trafficking, and faced up to 45 years in prison if found guilty. He pleaded not guilty and was denied bail. The indictment in this case showed that he sought out minors, some as young as 14, my God, from at least 2002 through 2005, and paid them hundreds of dollars in cash for their at either his Manhattan townhouse or his estate in Palm Beach, Florida, federal prosecutors revealed last month. One alleged victim, Virginia Roberts Giuffre, sorry, you know me in names, now 36, said Jeffrey Epstein and his close associates had ordered her to have sex with several high-powered men when she was just 14 years old, according to a 2016 deposition released Friday. Epstein had previously served 13 months of an 18-month sentence for 2 Florida prostitution charges that came as a result of a 2007 plea agreement that many considered far too lenient and which hid its details from the victims. The deal was agreed to by Alexander Acosta, then the U.S. attorney in Miami, and he has came under a lot of heat for that, which he should. That guy, the fact that he didn't get nothing but a slap on the wrist is appalling. I mean, that's crazy. Anybody else would have been in prison for a long time, and he got charges reduced and slapped on the wrist. Pathetic. Acosta was labor secretary in President Donald Trump's administration at the time of Epstein's arrest. He resigned from the post July 19 after coming under fire over the Epstein deal. I do not think it is right and fair to have this administration's Labor Department have Justice Epstein as the focus, Acosta said at the time. I told him, President Trump, that I felt the right thing to do was to step aside. That was the least you could do. The very least you could have done. Victims still want justice, and they still deserve some type of justice. What? I don't know. It kind of puts you in a gray area now because one of the perpetrators, the biggest, the ringleader of this, is dead. So it causes an issue. And without his words up on the stand, it's going to be hard to point out other people. He was evidence, and now that evidence is gone. So that's going to cause a little bit of an issue for these people, and I really hope somehow they get some closure. Since Epstein's death was first reported on Saturday, today, Epstein's alleged victims have expressed anger and frustration that they won't be able to see the man stand trial. We have to live with the scars of his actions for the rest of our lives, while he will never face the consequences of the crimes he committed. The pain and trauma he caused on so many people, said Jennifer Arrows, I don't know, who accused Epstein of raping her when she was 15. Epstein is gone, but justice still must be served. Many of the lawyers representing various of Epstein's alleged victims also called for further investigations. Lisa Bloom, the lawyer for some of his alleged victims, said they would prefer he lived to face justice, but that they will continue to proceed in suing his estate. Victims deserve to be made whole for the lifelong damage he caused. Excuse me. Brad Edwards, another attorney representing some Epstein accusers, deemed his death both unfortunate and predictable. The fact that Jeffrey Epstein was able to commit the selfless act of taking his own life as his world of abuse, exploitation, and corruption unraveled is both unfortunate and predictable, said Edwards in a statement. The victims deserved to see Epstein held accountable, and he owed it to everyone he hurt to accept responsibility for all the pain he had caused. And they go on to say this is a developing story. Check back for updates. Well, the thing is about this story is this is rife with conspiracy. I mean, come on. Come on. Even in this article itself, they say he wasn't on suicide watch. He was on suicide watch, I do believe. From many other sources that I've gathered, he was on suicide watch still. Usually, when you're in jail and you do something or something happens to where they think it could have been an attempted suicide, you're on suicide watch for a while. They will keep you there for a while. So, yeah, they just put him on in July, so I believe he'd still be on today. That would have made sense. I'm not gonna. That's not set in stone. I'm not gonna say that is for sure. Maybe he wasn't, but from everything I've gathered, he was still on suicide watch. And it's very interesting. It's just very interesting that we're going to have a federal investigation, because that shows that even the feds believe something happened here. This wasn't normal. They probably have some information that we don't. I'm pretty sure. They love to keep us in the dark. But very interesting. Very interesting. While I hate to see him go out in this particular manner, I prefer justice to have been served, and just mainly for the victims to be able to face him and watch him have to face his crimes. But now that's not going to happen. But I don't think this is no big loss. I don't think it's that big of a loss, Jeffrey Epstein was a disgusting beast of a human being. He was horrible. But he is no more now. And the problem is, with his death, there goes so much information. It's same when it comes to any criminal. Like a God forbid, I hate those people, but when it comes to these mass shooters, most of the time they go out by either suicide by cop or they shoot themselves. We don't get a lot of information. We don't get a lot of how these people's heads work, how they get turned, how this, that, and the other. And it's same with the Jeffrey Epstein case. When you think about it, when it comes to now we can't get these types of insights that we need to these sick individuals because he's gone now. Now there's going to be a lot of conspiracy theories, and I'm not against conspiracy theories at all, because almost everything that's ever been uncovered started as a conspiracy theory, So it's going to be interesting to see what happens from here. Hopefully we'll get some type of information, but I doubt it. I really doubt we're going to get anywhere on this. This will probably be the last we hear of the whole Jeffrey Epstein situation. But, like I said, no big loss. No big loss at all. The only loss I feel is the loss of, It's the loss of justice for the victims. That's the only real loss here, is the loss of justice for the victims. Jeffrey Epstein being dead is not a big loss, because he was just an absolutely horrible human being that doesn't deserve to be here, and now he's not. But I'd love to hear your comments on this, and as always, like, share, and subscribe. I will catch you on the flip side.